Hello, everyone. It looks like my mic works. Let's hit this button. It looks like we have the video feed. As I was mentioning in chat, and I guess this was true last time, but I did not sort of point it out. My hair is blonde by way of becoming purple because I said if for my 24-hour stream, if people donated enough money, I would dye my hair purple, which I did, but it was an invisible purple. So I'm going to do it the right way this time, and I'm hoping that my hair will become actually purple. We will see. That is going to be the effort. But today we're here to watch Simon solve Buffet, which is my most recent puzzle. I think this is the puzzle that, in terms of its reaction, I think this is my most positively received puzzle since Two Truths and a Lie, I believe. The amount of comments and solves it's gotten on LMD has really outshone a lot of other things. So I'm glad people have enjoyed it. I really enjoyed setting this one, even though it broke a number of times. It was always fun to set, and I had a lot of fun prove this has no solution exercises in the process of setting / discovering this one. But I think it's going to be a fun solve to watch. Brennan saying they enjoyed my solve of the Paradoku with ranks. That was a great puzzle. If you've not watched me co-solve a Paradoku with ranks, where I do a Renbon puzzle and ranks does a killer puzzle, it was an enormous amount of fun, and it was I think it made for a good video too, because I think you get to see a lot of us sort of bouncing back and forth. Do please go and like the original Cracking the Cryptic video for this that we're about to watch together. Also like my stream of it, of course. But if you can click in the description there, the original video is here. Let's make sure that you can hear the audio on the Cracking the Cryptic video. Also, I will warn you, the rules explanation for this puzzle is going to go on for more than 10 minutes.
Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and a puzzle I have been
a bit
looking
quiet
forward to
relative
ever
to
since
me.
I discovered its
Okay.
existence. This is the new puzzle Buffet
okay, so
by none other than zetamath.
Okay,
now,
it should be
zetamath is
louder
a
than
constructor I
or louder
admire
relative to me
hugely,
now.
absolutely hugely. And I will just say that the rule set to this puzzle
how is that?
might be the longest we've ever featured. All of the constraints are very standard, but there are a lot of them, and I think most constructors, we wouldn't really consider a rule set this long. But zetamath,
better, but it's still
you basically
quiet.
know you're in for an absolute treat. So
Okay,
we're
how about
making an
now?
exception. There's a very long rule set. It's all very standard, so nothing terribly terribly outrageous.
Okay, yeah,
But you will have to
that's
trust
another
me
fraction louder.
that
Okay,
long
good.
rule sets from a very small set of setters, I think.
So a little smidge about the rule set. So this is a puzzle which features a large number of common line constraints. Originally, I tried very hard to set this. It was only going to be region, sum lines, whispers, renbon, and 10 lines, which, is already a lot of constraints to have in one puzzle. But every way I tried it broke, and I basically reached a point where I proved to myself that I could not make any puzzle that had the break-in I wanted and the sort of thing I wanted with those lines. So then I was like, okay, well, there's a few slightly lesser used lines. Maybe I'll use one of those. And then as it happened, I eventually ended up using 3 additional line constraints other than that one. Basically because I sort of felt pushed into it, and I kept finding neat little interactions that sort of worked with things. And so you'll see, like, one thing that's sort of striking about this grid is that there's almost no clues below row 4, and there's certainly no clues below row 6. And so that ends up being as a result of the sort of weird interactions that we get between all of these various line constraints. But anyway, I often set out to do puzzles that have a really wacky amount of things in them. This was not me setting out to do a puzzle that had a lot of wacky things in it. It just ended up that way.
Are worth the trouble. And yeah, if you look at Logic Masters Germany, the page almost runs out. There are so many comments basically saying this is amazing, this is amazing. And my favourite was by Nordy, who wrote "Holy
Oh, Nordy,
Interaction, Batman," which
shout
I
out to
thought has
Nordy.
to be the video title, assuming I can solve this. It has got 4 stars out of 5 for difficulty and a 99% approval rating, I think. So it's going to be a great treat. And I'm delighted to tell you as well that zetamath has submitted this to the channel and did note that the move has gone well for him and Tristan. So we're very pleased to hear that, and they are very much enjoying their new house. So I hope, zetamath, you're going to get to enjoy a video of me battling with you through this puzzle. We shall see. For that to be the case.
I will say, I hope, and I hope Simon Solve bears this out. I think this puzzle is only 4 stars because it involves 1,700 constraints. I think this is actually like a 3-star puzzle in difficulty if you have sort of familiarity with all of the constraints, which is sort of basically like saying it's a 4-star one. Yes, we have spoken to Simon about the reaction streams. We've shown Simon the reaction streams before. I know that Simon watched at least one of the reaction streams because I know he told Tristan he was surprised how kind I was to him or something like that. Yeah, as Nordy says, and I think all the steps that I thought were the hardest steps in the puzzle, I think Mixo showed me that you can get around them, not necessarily in easier ways, but you can get around them in different ways. Because I watched Mixo solve this as the sort of the first test solve was a Mixo FJam Doomdiat co-solve. And I think they found sort of alternate ways around a few of the things. So yeah, I can't wait till we get the Simon reacts to one of my reaction videos.
I have to solve it. I've got some news for you today. Where should we start? Let's start with this month's Patreon reward, where this was Kraken the Cryptic, of course, themed around sort of sea monsters and loosely on a new film. And I can tell you who the winner is. We drew the winner this morning. The winner is Craig Anderson. So, Mr. Anderson,
there will be lots of shenanigans, Playmaker. I think this is a high shenanigan puzzle.
And we have put together a roll of honor, which will appear at the end of this video. Now, this roll of honor, I think, is 4 minutes long, which gives you an idea of how many of you managed to solve it. So very, very well done. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you. And we have we've adjusted the speed of the roll of honor to exactly match the beautiful piece of music that was composed for us by none other than Kurt Hugo Schneider, the American YouTuber.
Yeah, Mr. Don. I know a lot of people, Mr. Don, commenting that usually they watch they watch Cracking the Cryptic at 1.5 speed, which I know an awful lot of people do. I have never quite been able to do that. It sounds so weird to me, but I can definitely understand. As long as you can pay attention to it, I think 1.5 speed would make a lot of sense, especially with how long some of them are. My apologies to the contributions I may have made to making some of them longer.
A polymath of type. And Kurt Hugo was kind enough to basically make this piece of music for us.
We got a
really beautiful piece
donation from David for the watch party. Let's get you a donation dance from our resident penguin.
I recommend you listening to it if you don't want to watch it. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about is that Mark and I have been away, so I'm behind on birthdays.
And thank you, David. Thank you very much.
Anniversaries, even. I'm going to put that right now. I'm going to start by saying a happy 1.5 year anniversary to Alex and Danny. And I think I might even have a picture. Have I got a picture? This is there's a picture of Danny with Goose Cinnamon. I think that's her new cat. Alex is studying philosophy, and Danny's doing psychology. It's a very cute cat. And I'm delighted to hear that all is going well in your lives, and wish you all the best. I think your anniversary was actually was it 5 days ago, the 22nd. I'm a little bit late with that one. Also late with saying happy birthday to Angela. Angela, your birthday was on the 24th of July, and I was very pleased to read that your partner Andrew was ordering the chocolate cake with a black dot ratio of icing. Now, I mean, it does beg the question. 1 to 2. I mean, it should really be 1 to 1, Andrew. But I mean, 1 to 2. Well, maybe actually you mean twice as much icing as cake. That could be correct. That's probably correct.
It
In
is, I
which case,
think,
it would be
true that
delicious.
that cake is really a vessel to consume icing. Because as I've discovered, people look at you really funny and try and take it away from you if you just open a case of chocolate icing and just start eating it with a spoon. But no one looks at you funny if you smear it on a chocolate cake first and eat it.
Um,
You have missed nothing about the puzzle so far, Lakia. At least other than me saying very minor things about its genesis.
Ben, you turned 40, the big 40, on the 21st of July. And I know this because she wrote to us and said that she and baby Teddy would like to let you know that they love you dearly, basically. And she described you as the most loving husband and daddy. Um,
Tony said they wanted to wait to find a puzzle and so they could find the break-in. I do think this puzzle's break-in is pretty well advertised because the break-in is row 1, column 1. For almost all of my puzzles, the break-in is either in box 1 or in box 8. Those are really the two places to look if you're looking at a Zeta puzzle. Occasionally box 5, but very rarely. Also, say hello to Tristan.
Hey, Chad.
Not a fan of icing. Okay, I will take Hamsta's icing from their cakes.
and in fact extended an invitation to Mark and me to your house as well. So thank you very much for the invite. And Ben, I hope you had a brilliant birthday. I understand you're an engineer who attended Cambridge, the best university, of course.
Yes, I thought that was
Emma,
intentional
on the
because you didn't
18th
like
of
the lamp.
July, it was your birthday, I think.
You can put on the lamp if you like.
Rather amusingly, I did like the
I'm
fact
brighter now.
that you gave up chocolate cake as a New Year's resolution at the age of 16, and you have kept that resolution until this year when you are 34. So good effort, Emma. I mean, I'm not sure it's entirely sensible to give up chocolate cake, but I hope you manage to have some other cake to celebrate your birthday. Harry, you turned 17 on the 17th of July. And I know this because your friend James wrote to us and told us, so I hope you had a great birthday. And then Will near Chichester. I think it's your birthday today. It might be it might actually be today. So you have a birthday that is today, which is great. And your work friend Holly wrote to us. And apparently she spotted you with a Sudoku book during a lunch hour. And you realise that you both watch Cracking the Cryptic, which is rather cool. It's good when Cracking the Cryptic interrupts real life, I think. And she always enjoys your brief chats. And what does that say? I can't read my own writing. Oh, your brief chats at work, and likes your sense of humour. And says you need another reminder to watch the original Roggen video. So consider yourself reminded, Will, and I hope you have a great birthday today. And then finally, a very special little girl, Lizzie. Lizzie, on the 21st of July, you turned 9. And I know this because your dad, John, wrote to us. And some of you may know John under his Sudoku pseudonym, Jobo. But your daddy got you into setting variant Sudokus due to Cracking the Cryptic. Well, if you are doing that at the age of 9, Lizzie, well done you. That is absolutely fantastic to hear. And I hope that you had an absolutely wonderful birthday. And that's all the messages. So I'm slowly but steadily catching up, which is grand. But now we're going to turn our attention to zetamath's puzzle, and I'm going to read you the rules. And this is going to be a lengthy part of the video, but I'm sure it will be worth the wait. Here we go. So the rules are normal Sudoku rules apply. That's fairly straightforward. Now each circle marks the head of a familiar line constraint, which takes the form of a snake of length from 2 to 9 cells. The specific constraint is indicated by the colour of the circle and by a letter on the colourblind friendly version. So I am going to solve this using the colourblind friendly version, which I hope will be helpful because...
Big thank you to MicroStudy for making these circles look prettier, by the way. The default in F puzzles, the circles look kind of ugly, and MicroStudy made me a version with much nicer, thicker circles. So huge appreciation for that.
Well, for example, I have a lot of difficulty seeing that these two colours are...
So Nordy asks what the secret is. The secret is you need to edit the JSON to draw two circles on top of each other that are filled. And so uh, you fill one solid and then you draw a solid white circle on top of it that's slightly smaller, and that lets you build a thick border. Rather than the default is this like really thin one, which if you've done many of my circles, you've seen those black circles everywhere. Those show up fine, but these did not show up fine.
Different, but they are, because this has an M in it and this has an E in it. So these are different constraints. And okay, the circle contains the length of the snake. Okay. The snakes move orthogonally through the centres of some cells and do not touch themselves orthogonally. What does that mean? Well, it means that that is not a snake, because that's a sort of a ring, and the snake, which was going this way quite happily, turned back on itself and hit itself. Now it's not allowed to do that. Can it touch itself diagonally? I don't know. I think it can. The snakes move orthogonally, which means they move from edge. You know, the cells that the snake passes to are always going to be those with which it shares an edge. So the snake doesn't move like that. But
Simon has mentioned, and so I can say publicly, I believe, that there is a snake puzzle that I set for the Cracking the Cryptic book. So Simon recorded a video for it, which is well over 2 hours, Simon has said. So Simon may have a little bit of lingering snake trauma from the previous snake puzzle of mine that he solved, which has not yet appeared. I haven't seen it yet either, but Simon in the intro of one of these videos talked about solving Flagrante, which is my puzzle in the upcoming book. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Simon solve that, because it is it's a beast.
I think the snakes might be able to touch each other or touch themselves diagonally. It's all the instructions say is that they cannot touch themselves orthogonally.
Well, welcome, Sam. Glad
Snakes
you enjoy
may
them.
Freely touch each other, but do not share cells. Okay, so the snakes we're going to draw don't overlap, is what I take from that. The grey cells in box 4 are not part of any snake. Oh, okay. And the featured...
Yeah, the gray cells, anyone who's a setter and looks at that will sort of wince internally and know I did not really want to have 2 gray cells that were not part of any snake. But like in all the early versions of this, in every iteration, there was a circle here that was going to be part of some constraint, and just everything I could possibly make it broke. And I realized the only thing I really needed was for these 2 cells to not be part of a snake. And I was just like, fine, I'm just going to declare it so that these are not part of any snake. And then we will do it. But there is an ongoing competition to name the gray cells. So MicroStudy would like each of the gray cells to have its own name. So whatever name is appropriate, I will take your recommendations. Oh no, Jay Dyer almost had a given shaded cell in one of her puzzles today. Yeah, I feel your pain.
Clue types are as follows. So I think everything here is standard, but I will read them.
The only non-standard thing here I'll say is that modular lines are usually a shade of green, which is almost but not quite the same shade as green as whispers. And I did not want to have them be almost the same color. So I made the modular lines yellow, which is not what anyone makes modular lines, but I didn't have any yellow lines, so I went with that. Let's see. Playmaker wants one of the cells to be called Sam. Jay Dyer wants them to be called Scylla and Charybdis. Charybdis, I'm going to guess. Let us...
all out. We have Renban, which is purple/R. Right, so we have 3 snakes that are Renban snakes. And the digits on a Renban line form a sequence of consecutive digits in any order. Digits do not repeat along a Renban. Okay, so
There was a long period, by the way, where I was setting this, where I was allowing the circles to be anywhere along the snake rather than that at the head. and that a snake could have more than one circle, which would of course have to have the same number in them. But this was such a pain to do that I just ended up just scrapping it and just being like, nope, it's the head. You don't have to think about it. It doesn't go through more than one circle. It's done. And just being happy with that.
Normal Renban rules apply. So if we imagine that was I'll make it purple. Imagine this was a snake.
Charybdis.
Was
it's Charybdis. I'm sorry to Charybdis.
One here, but then I realised that that was meant to be the length of the snake, and that wouldn't work. Then this line would be 1, 2, 3, 4 in any order. So it could be something like that. Oh no, hang on. The 4 would have to go here. Okay, I'm trying to assimilate the rules as I do the examples, which is not maybe a sensible thing to do.
I'm not sure if he's going to use the line tool, but I tried to make all of these match a color that exists in the pen tool in Sudoku Pad, because it's a lot more fun for me to draw a line into the grid for the snake than it is to sort of color them. Possibly controversial statement.
We've got one of those, I believe. I can only see one S. I might be wrong.
Well, Biflor, I hope you enjoy it when you solve it.
In each 3x3 box it passes through, sum to the same total. That's a very nice way of region sum lines is one of those interesting rule sets where it's very difficult to write. The rule's very clear once you understand it, but to write it down so a newcomer can understand it clearly is not easy. And I know this because I've attempted to do it many times. But
I hate writing the rules for region sum lines. I totally agree. I often steal them from Codec.
That formulation, and it wasn't one of the testers. So the cells along a region sum line. So imagine this did something like this. Let's just paint that in as a possibility. Then what we'd be saying is within this 3x3 box, you can see that those 5 cells are taken by the S line. So the sum of those cells would be the same as the sum of these 2 cells, which is the total contents of the blue line in box 2. And that would be the same as these cells, which would be the total sum of the blue line in box 5.
There's a lot of legalese in the rules of this puzzle that clarify things that people might ask, but that never possibly could come up in the puzzle. But one thing that people always have to ask, and I think it tells you whether you have the brain of a mathematician or the brain of a normal person, if you read the rules of a region sum line, and if you ask the question, well, is it a valid region sum line if it only goes through one region? And so, like, to a mathematician, I'm sort of inclined to say, well, it's fine if your region sum line's only in one region. Of course, the sum is the same in every region it goes through. But of course, it's not a very interesting region sum line if it only goes through one region. And so any sort of construct your own region sum lines puzzle usually has a rule which is explicitly there that says, yeah, it has to pass through more than one region.
And I've realised I've drawn a 10-cell snake, which is impossible. So you'll have to forgive me for that. I didn't mean to do it.
I think I successfully muted my mic to sneeze for like the 3rd time.
Region sum lines always occupy at least 2 regions. Okay, well, I could have guessed that, I think. All right, but that's just saying, I think, that this couldn't be... We couldn't just make the region sum, the snake do that. That's a bit silly, isn't it? That doesn't really have a concept of region sums.
They'd be really upset if you talked about the product of 0 numbers, Jay.
Green W lines. Okay, W for whispers, let's remember that. And adjacent digits along a whispers line differ by at least 5. So if this...
Fortunately, Zam, that's not an issue in this puzzle because there's only one region sum line and it can't possibly do that. But generally, the accepted thing is if it goes through the same box more than once, you sort of start and restart the count. But I tried to keep the rules for each line as concise as possible, and it's not ever necessary here. So if you read it literally, then it will turn out to be true. But it's not possible to sort of wiggle out and back in because of the way the construction works.
This square was a 1. Let's draw a line like that.
So Jim suggests that I could do the thing I often do, which is to write normal blank rules apply. The problem is that for some things, so the region sum lines thing is that normal region sum lines doesn't answer the question that you might ask of, well, what happens if it only is in one box? Is that acceptable or not? And so I ended up having to write it out for that. And then I had to write out a couple other clarifying things for a couple other things. And by then I was like, okay, I just better spell them all out. Uh, Nicholas asked about the purple hair. The purple hair is coming. You'll notice my hair is now blonde, whereas it was previously dark brown. It's so that the purple will show up in theory. Because last time I dyed my hair purple, because my hair was so dark, you just couldn't see it at all.
This was a
I will say I was really afraid about writing the rules to this puzzle technically correctly. I was afraid when I wrote, because these rules are actually what I wrote originally, at least very nearly. It was that. And so I was like, someone's assuredly going to ask something or say something or whatever. But I knew things were okay when Henry Pye James did the puzzle and made no comment about the rules, because Henry Pye James is incredibly good at identifying like places where your rules have something that is not quite precise enough. But yeah, so in this instance, that's why I did it, and I was happy that no one complained about the rules. Jim asks, "Isn't the product of zero numbers like x to the 0th power?" Yes, the product of any zero numbers, whichever zero numbers you want, the product of those zero numbers is 1.
The 1. This would have to be at least 6 because it needs to be at least 5 different from 1. Modular lines. Yellow. Okay, that's that one, is it? Now I can only see one modular line. Each string of 3 adjacent cells along a modular line contains 1 of 147, 1 of 258, and 1 of 369. I mean, this is monstrous. So I hate modular lines. They're very, very confusing. Mark, I think, was it Mark who came up with the idea of using the number pad? If you look at your number pad on your keyboard, the sort of vertical stripe of it is...
Confession, I'm not a huge fan of modular lines either, but this modular line does something miraculous later in the puzzle. I really wanted this modular line to be an entropic line, and it was for a long time in setting. But spoiler, I proved in lots of different ways it can't be an entropic line.
It's got 1, 4, and 7 in it. So you know that one of these has to be 1, 4, or 7. One of them has to be 2, 5, 8. One of them has to be 3, 6, 9 in some order. But obviously, once you know what the first one...
Zam asks, if I didn't specify that region sum lines have to go through multiple boxes, would this puzzle not have a unique solution? My gut is that that's correct. That if you did not specify that, I think the puzzle would have lots of solutions. It's kind of miraculous that it has one solution as it is. I can't imagine that without that it would, but maybe, who knows? I don't know of any solvers that support all of these constraints as well as support the snake constraint. But who knows? Maybe Jay Dyer will write one.
It's sort of helpful because then you know what the fourth one is, etc. Okay. Oh no, hang on. Now I'm wrong as well. I hadn't read the rules properly because it then says that is true what I've said, but it then says length 2 modular lines contain 1 of each of 2 of these groups. So in this puzzle, it's not necessary for these modular lines or the entropy line, which is this one, to be only of length, or to have 1 of each type of digit. They can have only 2 cells on them, and then they only have to have 2 types of digits.
This sentence is completely unnecessary. However, I knew for a fact that if I did not include this sentence, that I would get a bunch of people pinging me to ask me what happened with length 2 modular and entropic line, so I just spelled it out anyway. Lakia, a lot of these constraints could be 1 digit, except for the fact that the very first sentence of the rules says that all the constraints are at least length 2, because it says of length 2 through 9. But the rules for modular lines and entropic lines are weird if you don't have that little sort of additional proviso.
Now, and then we come on to the entropic lines, which are the orange E line, which is that one, and it says each string of 3 adjacent cells along a modular line No, hang on, that can't be right. That should say, and oh, there's a mistake in my instructions here.
Oh no, it's
It says
probably
each
my
string
fault.
of 3 adjacent cells along a modular line. It should say entropic line, I think. Okay, so I will have to correct that afterwards.
I think that's
Each
probably
string
my
of
fault,
3
but I'm not
adjacent
100%
cells
sure.
along an orange entropic line, which is this one, contains one of 1, 2, and 3, one of 4, 5, and 6, and one of 7, 8, and 9. So imagine this did this. What colour is it? Orange.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I copy-pasted to write the same
section,
explanation, and then
one of these has to
failed
be a 1,
to
2,
change
3,
one of the
one of
words.
these has to be a 4, 5, 6, one of them has to be a 7, 8, 9. But then if you look at those, you can see that with that same principle applies to those 3, and the implication of that is that those 2 would have to have the same they would have to have the same entropy. They would have to be, imagine this was 1, 2, 3, then this would also have to be 1, 2, 3.
points out that yes, I did get it wrong in LMD. I'm not too surprised. I'm a little surprised no one pointed it out yet.
Which says that the length 2 entropic lines contain one of each of these 2 groups. So it's possible that this is just a length 2 line, like that. Right, and then we go on to parity lines, red P. So
Zam, the max of length 9 rule shows up in the sense that I could never put a number larger than 9 in one of these circles. So if the length were longer than 9, it would be really hard to know what it would mean. But yes, it does show up with the region sum line. If the region sum line was allowed to be longer, it would be more flexible.
This is the parity line. Adjacent digits along a parity line have opposite parity. So parity is oddness and evenness. So if this was odd, the next digit on...
Yeah, Mr. O'Don points out, people read from context a lot rather than from what's actually written. Like, especially as someone who's as dyslexic as I am, when I'm reading along, a lot of it is context, which is why I have a really hard time reading out loud if I'm trying to read something out loud, because I can't sort of also process the context. So yeah, it would be really easy to miss that sort of thing because you just know what you're expecting and just read it anyway.
On the line would have to be even. If this was even, the next digit on the line would have to be odd, etc. 10 lines, grey T lines. I can see 2 of those. It's not... Oh, hang on. It's not possible that these lines run into each other, is it? No, it said... Let me just double check that. Each circle marks the head of a familiar line constraint which takes the form of a snake. And then didn't it say something about non-overlapping? Yes, the snakes do not share cells. Okay, so each of these are different. I was suddenly worried that you could connect them. But
that was possible in a very early version of the puzzle.
And this is a 10 line. So let's just make it like that. Now, I think I understand what 10 lines do. So digits along a 10 line must be entirely divided into non-overlapping groups of adjacent cells which sum to 10. So, okay, let's think about what this could look like. So if this was a 5-cell line, that would be a 5. But then we'd have to split it into orthogonal groups or sort of adjacent groups that sum to 10. So we could do something like that, I'm going to claim, because 5, 2 and 3 add up to 10 and 4 and 6 add up to 10. What you couldn't do, whoops, is
you couldn't do that. Simon is correct.
That's going to break the rules of Sudoku. So if this was a length 5 line, you would know that the first sequence of adjacent digits would have to be 3 cells long, which would be an interesting deduction. Now, and then it just says digits may repeat within these sums if allowed by other rules. Well, yeah, okay. Well, you couldn't have 2 5s in the same box, so that wouldn't be allowed there. And then we get to the end of the rules. So after 17 minutes of video, that is long. That is long. I'm not going to deny it, and I'm sorry, but in my opinion,
I hope
we'll see whether I am right.
The amount of fun in the puzzle is worth the
anyway,
the work.
Do
for
have
that.
a go at this. The way to play is to click the link under the video, and I guarantee it will give you a lot of pleasure if you manage to solve this, because zetamath puzzles always do. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And
Every
let's start
cell on a
building
9
some of
line
these
must sum
snakes.
to 9.
Now,
I feel like there was some puzzle someone made for one of my like anniversary streams or birthday streams or something featured something a lot like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something a lot like that, Jay.
wow. Right, so this must be where we start, because this is the region sum line. So it has to get into another 3x3 box, and I can see the only way. It's got to take those cells. It's got to, because it can't get out any other way. It can't overlap. Right, so this one, which is a 10 line, even if it only had one. Actually, it does only have one. I'm suddenly realizing. Yeah, okay, so this line is made up of a sequence of numbers that add up to 10. And it's only one sequence of numbers because there's not enough room. I think the shortest line you could have that had two sequences adding up to 10 would be a 4-cell line. Then you could have sort of a 1-9 and then a 2-8 or something like that. But because you can't write 10 into one Sudoku cell, this well, it goes at...
Lakia asks how difficult this puzzle is. I think the difficulty is about 3 stars, but I listed it on LMD at 4 stars, and it is at 4 stars because you get a bonus star for making it through the rules.
At least like that, and that cell is a 2 or a 3, because we know that the length of the snake here has to be in this cell, and this can't be any longer than 2 or 3. It's either 2... Well, if it's a 2, that is an 8, I think. That's just false,
hey, Jobo.
because the length
Welcome.
of the snake is 2. And if it's a 3...
Yeah, the pen tool, I think, looks much
7.
nicer, especially when
we're definitely going to have
Renbans run
information
into
to
each other.
extract from this circle. Right, this W has got penned in, and that is a whisper, if I remember rightly. So it's got to be at least 2. So we'll green those in. That's got to get out. That's got to be at least 2. The Renban has to get out.
Jack, yes, it does explicitly say in the longer form of the rules, which are hidden by me anyway, but it does explicitly say that, yes, a region sum line has to go into multiple boxes.
Because everything has to be...
So it's funny this worked out this way, just in terms of setting. I originally had this box's circle set up in this way so that actually the deduction intended was, oh, the region sum line can't come into box 2 because it could only take 2 cells and you can't make these 5 cells sum to 17, so therefore it has to go into box 4 instead. And I never noticed, I don't think at any point did I notice, that very easily this whisper would be forced down, which would then say this line could never come into box 2 anyway. So this is one of the many times where I designed a specific deduction very carefully that was immediately proven unnecessary by the clue I used to make the deduction.
At least 2. Now my blue thing has
Great
to
to have
down
other
here.
mathematicians
blue
around.
Thing, go down there. And right, here is a little point about blue things. The minimum sum... Actually, it's not the minimum. Well, it's interesting. I was about to say, and it still holds what I was going to say, the minimum sum of 5 different Sudoku digits is the triangular number for 5. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is 15. So I know that I can't just stop this line here, because that would require me to write 15 at least into this cell, which is not going to work. So this has to keep going down there because it can't overlap with that one, which is a red. Let's just make that red. In fact, maybe that's what we should do. We should give everything its colour to start with. What is that? It's orange. You see, I can't really see that one still.
Hey, Selena. I'm sorry it's not a grid with a bunch of arrows for you.
Now, what? Well, the only other thought I had as I was about to do the example there is to note that this can't add up to 15. Because this square is going to be a 2 or a 3. I mean, imagine that was a 2. Then the minimum sum of this would be 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, which is quite a lot. It's 19. That would... So maybe this has to be at least 3 cells.
Jay Dyer has discovered that secretly row 1, column 1 is at least 7.
Ah, Ah, no, that's right. This is already pretty, actually. Yeah. Okay, I've got it. I've got it. I'm going to slightly abandon that line of thought, but come back to it very quickly, because I can see something about these two snakes. Now, what's the maximum? Well, not one of these is a 2, is what I'm going to claim, because this we know is not snakeable. The blue has
yes,
sort of
Michael,
trapped
that
in
would
the
do it.
Renban. So if the Renban grows bigger than 2, it traps in the W as a 2 snake. And if the W snake grows bigger than 2, it traps in the Renban at size 2. So one of these has to be a 2.
That was exactly
And that
why I
means that
designed
has
it
to be
this
a
way,
3.
was to get that
But this,
exact
I think this
deduction.
has much more profound implications, actually, for this line, doesn't it? Because all of a sudden, there's no way this is going to work with a domino here. And the reason I say that is the maths I was doing before, where I was imagining what this digit was. Now, on this section of digits here, I can't put less than 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. Oh, hang on. Now but I think that's true, but I'm now suddenly realizing this is confusing. I've got to combine that with the fact that this digit has to be...
He heard Jay Dyer. They live
Well,
relatively close together, so he heard her after only a little bit of time.
Yeah, that digit can't be 7 anymore, and that's going to push up the total. This is very clever. Yeah, okay. So what I'm realizing, what I said was that this is at least 1 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7, and that's 23, I think. But that obviously means that this isn't long enough, because I can't make those two cells add up to 23. And that means the actual length of this snake is not 7, which is its current length, it's at least 8. But now I'm thinking that has to be 8, because now the minimum sum of this is 24. But there's no way I can get this blue snake here. Well, we know the blue snake here has to take another cell in this box, so it's got to take this one because of the wall of non-snakiness here. And the maximum sum of those cells is 7, 8, and 9, which is 24. And if I make this 9, I'm alleging, maybe wrong.
Nordy wants it to be a striped snake.
I'm alleging, if I make this 9, I can't make this add up to only 24, because I could have a 9 and a 1. And then I'm going to add to that 4, 5, and 6, which is 15, so it's 25, which is too many.
That's a funny reason for him to say it can't be 9. For me, the reason it couldn't be 9 is if you make it 9, you have to make it go into another box, and it's only going to put one cell in that other box. Was the way I thought about it.
Because I certainly can't get back into this box in only... Well, no, the point is...
Dorlira asked if it's possible without the gray cells. It's definitely possible to make a version of this puzzle without the gray cells, but not with all the logic that I had sort of baked in here, that then sort of had an ending that I liked and a beginning that I liked. So I kept this in, even though sort of for the longest time, this was the head of an unspecified line. A line of unspecified type, but it turns out that it breaks if this is any line type. The thing that actually breaks is this being a circle. This circle ends up having to be too big, and then it was irresolvable. So I then just went with these, just outright specifying the thing I actually was using, which is that these two weren't part of a snake.
The point is this: the next snake cell here.
And thank you, Sarah. Good to have you here.
Outside, yeah, is outside box 4, and I can't go there, because if I go outside box 4, say I did this. Now this needs to have at least 3 cells in box 5, because it's got to add up to at least 24. and that's going to make this digit more than 9. So actually, this is, I think this is now totally forced. Everything is forced. This is 8. This is 7, 8, 9. Whoa, which I totally mistyped.
So if row 6, column 2 is allowed to be on the snake, this region sum line can have length 9, because the region sum line can snake around row 5, column 2, and into row 6, column 2, and then you lose all of the forced stuff about the digits that we're about to use.
That
is the
adds
thing
up to
that
24,
it's used for a
and then have to
playmaker.
minimise these digits to make this achievable. Now let's just double check the maths. We've got 4, 5, 6, which is 15, plus 9, which is 24. So it just works. And now...
I tend to really like something that forces a lot of weird pencil marks like this in setting to start with. And yeah, I couldn't get that if I let the region sum line snake one more cell over.
Now, now we can think about, this is beautiful. It's really beautiful. Holy interactions, Batman. Because that's a 2. And the reason I know that's a 2 is because I've done enough German whispers to know there are secrets of whispers that we can avail ourselves of here. What are the secrets of whispers? Well, whispers lines, or whispers snakes in this instance, can never have 5 on them, because 5 has no digits that are 5 away from it, that are Sudoku digits. So there's no 5s on a whispers line, and therefore every digit on a whispers line is either lower than 5 or higher than 5. But the next digit after that is the opposite of whatever that one is. So if you had a 1, 2, 3, 4 on a whispers line, the next digit, which has to be at least 5 different from 1, 2, 3, or 4, is obviously on the high side of 5. And then if you have a digit that's on the high side of 5, the next digit must be on the low side of 5. And therefore, I need a low digit in one of those two cells, and I don't have 1, 3, or 4 available, so there must be a 2 in one of those squares, but we know one of these snakes is of length 2, which means I think that that's a 2, which means these squares are 7 and 9 by Sudoku. I thought I was going to get this one, but 2 is an annoying digit for a whisper. No, it's much better if this was 7, then this would have been 1 or 2, and we would have known what it was. Oh, but this is right. This is of length 2 now. I keep forgetting that we have to. Yeah, hang on. I keep forgetting. Right, I've got. There's all sorts of little information nuggets you can glean from everything that we're getting here, because I've suddenly realised that this 3 is telling me that this
slightly non-monogamous
here is 3 cells long, so that has to be grey, and it doesn't run into this one. So maybe we have to. Let's use the pen tool to sort of delineate some of this a bit more clearly.
This pen tool is this is an interesting use of the pen tool.
The W region is of length 2 now. We know that the we know that this region, the R region, is enormous. It's at least of length 7. So it's going to have to go down column. It's going to have to go down column 1.
There are a lot of moments like that in this puzzle where you're going to realize that you've suddenly priced yourself out of putting a digit in a circle that isn't enormous. So that moment, which I quite enjoyed, of oh crap, this Renbon is huge. We get to do that moment a number of times again.
And the only thing I can see there is it doesn't go to here in column 1. Because if it does go to there, you can't put this digit in column 1 anymore.
Simon is correct. That deduction is important.
All right, just give me a moment or two to think about this. I have a feeling this digit is now important. Whatever this digit is appears in one of those cells, and therefore does appear down here in column 1, but can't appear in purple. So that digit appears in one of those two squares. Maybe.
Yes. If he's thinking about the snakes from the phone game, that will that will make them blocky. That makes sense.
And try and remember that that's what that means. That's right, isn't it? That's completely uncontroversial.
In
this digit can't.
In the first several iterations of this puzzle, this step was important now, like he thinks it was, because something magic about this line or whatever. In this iteration of the puzzle, this is not going to be useful, I don't think, for a very long time.
Can't go in those squares and can't go in these squares, but has to appear in column 1. So I think that is legitimate. Okay, right, now I might be stuck.
It is true, not having lines over
do
numbers
next,
does make
do you
it
think?
reasonable.
Can we get these 2 digits sorted out? These add up to 7 to make a sequence that adds up to 10, and they're not 3, 4. So these are either 1, 6 or 2, 5.
That is indeed the
Okay.
next thing for me, Tristan, to notice. That has a lot of profound consequences on what is happening.
Alright, here's another tiny deduction. This whisper doesn't start with a 2
Oh, he heard
anymore,
Tristan, wow.
So it's at least length 3, and that moves it to here. Now that means this one has to go this way, because everything is at least a length 2 snake, we know that. So we get a series
Will he
of
hear
little
you that row 2,
deductions
column 5 is
that
also
way.
more than 2?
Oh, my tummy's rumbling.
Welcome, Karen. I hope you're doing well. I love doing these too.
Wow.
Not just
Okay,
because
now I've
it
got
means I
nothing.
got a
I've
cracking
really
the cryptic feature.
Oh, right, that's got to be exactly the same logic that applied to this circle applies to this circle, so that 10 sum comes a bit further. Does that mean this? No, it doesn't mean this has to extend, because we don't... I think this could be a 2.
I love this. This tickled me greatly.
Well, okay, that is true that this can be a 2, but it can't be an enormous... What I'm noticing is that this snake is a bit trapped in, isn't it? There's 3 white cells it can visit, but it can't visit all 3 of them without being a very strangely shaped snake. So that can only be a 2 or a 4, because it can't be a 3 length.
I definitely thought this might have too many rules for cracking the cryptic by the time it was done. I wasn't sure. I knew duplicity, I was really surprised, appeared. That one had a bunch of different standard rules, but it was a whole bunch of them. Although this one, but actually this one I submitted specifically because they did duplicity. I wouldn't have submitted it otherwise, but they did duplicity, which has about this many rules in it. But yeah, if your goal in life is to get your first feature on cracking the cryptic, you should not you should not submit something like this.
So it's a 2 or a 4. If it's a 2 length, right, it's beautiful.
Yes,
right,
please do like the stream.
It's
if you
a
have
4,
not yet
because if
liked
it
the
was
stream,
length
please
2,
do. I think
it's
this is
a
our
Ren ban of length 2. What's this?
I think this is our first time over 100 viewers. So thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, 2 truths and a lie. I know was a big deal for how many rules were in it, because it was like each rule shows up 3 times and there are like 15 rules or something. So they originally did that one on Patreon because they didn't want to explain all the rules. Have they ever not featured a puzzle I've submitted? Many, many times they have not featured a puzzle I submitted, which I am... The only one that still hurts me is Archa, because Archa was my my favorite of the S-Cell puzzles back in the S-Cell craze that I'm gonna guess they might have tried and not succeeded, because it was at 100% on LMD, and I think I even submitted it twice. But it's always a gamble when you submit something, whether it will get featured or not, or then sometimes it gets featured a lot later. And a lot of my features are from things I don't submit, because a lot of times the actual most effective thing, if you're an altruist, the most effective thing you can do is recommend other people's puzzles, because a recommendation for someone else's puzzle means a lot more to them than a recommendation for your own puzzle, because presumably you have less self-interest. So if you do a puzzle or see a puzzle that you really like, particularly if it's by a solver that particularly if it's by a setter that is not sort of someone who regularly appears on Cracking the Cryptic. You should really send them an email and recommend it if you think it would be a good thing for them, because then they're much more likely to do it, and you can really make someone's day. They never say anything about why they didn't feature something or if they decided not to or whatever.
Digit's got to be consecutive with 2, but it can't be 3. So it has to be 1, and then you can't make these two squares add up to 7 anymore, because 1 and 2 would not be in that congregation of digits. So that is 4, which means it definitely goes to here.
Yeah, so just in case you missed that, because I talked over it a lot, this circle couldn't be 2 because the 3 in the line would force this to be 1, 2, which would break the 7 sum. So this actually is then forced to be exactly 4 because of the geometry here, as Simon says.
That feels like it really nearly... No. Oh, I see. No, I can do this. I see what you're planning here, zetamath. Now we're going to ask the very obvious question of where 9 goes in row 1. Where does 9 go in row 1? What it doesn't do is go in a Renban line that's of length 4 with a 4, because 4, 5, 6, 7 is the highest digit you can possibly put in this Renban. In fact, yeah, okay. So the 9 in the top row must go here.
I'm glad he
Sorry,
spotted that
I'm jumping around
immediately.
a bit in my brain. Now this has got to be the extension of the Renban line. We now know that 7 in the top row is in this Renban line with this 4. So these squares have to be 5, 6 and 7 with the 7 up here. So the 7 is not there. So now the 2 in the top row is in this little congregation of digits, and we know this domino adds up to 7, so that's 2, 5, which means these are not 5. This is 5. I love this already. This is now a 1, so these are not 1. I can snakeify this and formalize its structure. This, well, can that go up? That's an entropic line. So, yeah, it can go up. If that's a 2, oh no, it can't be a 2. Ah, no, okay, that doesn't go up because it can't be a 2. Otherwise, it might have been able to go up and be a very short, stubby snake.
I know Simon has watched at least one of my reaction videos, Karen, because I know Tristan talked to him about like just getting his blessing for us doing it. And I know I'm far from the only setter who does these. But I know he said he watched one of them and said something to the effect of being surprised I was so nice. But I adore Simon. I hopefully have never said anything that could be perceived as anything but love and adoration for Simon. I mean, Simon and Mark are 100% responsible for me being in this hobby and doing these things. So I am always delighted by everything they do, basically.
2, and it's the head of a snake. So it must be at least of length 3, and therefore it comes down here. This one. Ah, hang on. 5 I can put here, look. So this is a 4, 6 pair.
Especially when they are kind, indeed.
Come on, Simon. What does this mean? I don't know.
So I'm curious if he does this the way that I intended. I'll tell you, I've watched a couple people do this puzzle, and they have not done it this way. The thing I was envisioning at this spot, and you could do it by Sudoku instead. So that the thing that he's likely to do is notice that by Sudoku 7 and 9 go in these 3 cells. But the thing that I had intended to note was this cell can't actually be low. Because if it's low, then that cell's also low. And that's 5 lows for the box because one of these 2 10 lines has to be low. So in fact, actually, the way I had sort of thought about this was just by counting the number of lows in the box, that cell actually has to be high, and that gets you a whole lot. And this also made me realize that the world is really ripe for a pure 10-line German whispers puzzle, because I think that the sort of like the fact that highs and lows also play on both of them and play on how your 5 sum or how your 10 sums work, I've tried to set one out since setting this, but I have not succeeded. But I think there's ample opportunity for a cool 10-line German whisper puzzle.
uh,
Oh, I'm glad I could be part of it, Brennan.
no, I've got nothing here. I'm just trying to understand where I'm meant to look. I'm sure there's going to be something more obvious than anything I'm seeing at the moment. Okay, no, that's not a sensible way to approach the question. Is it something to do with... Oh, I don't know. Maybe we can think about this, can we? I mean, if this is a low digit, i.e. if it's from a whisper's perspective, if it's lower than 5...
Oh, Simon is going to do it the way by avoiding
this is already
Sudoku.
of length 3, this would be a 3. So this is either 3 or it's a much bigger number. So and it can't be 6 actually, look at that. So it's at least 7, 8, 9. So either this ends, but if this is 3, this would have to be 5 different. So
I mean, no judgment. I didn't see the Sudoku way when I said it.
3,
so
8, 1. Which, believe it or not...
Sarah, I made a version of this with colors and a version with letters. So I made a version with letters just in case someone had difficulty with colors, especially given that I was forced to use the whole rainbow. So there was no way I could have there's no way I could have sort of all friendly colors. So I made a version with letters just to say, okay, this is a whispers in case, for example, you were red-green colorblind and couldn't tell the difference between the whispers and the parody line. So the letters are all there for that. And then Simon used this R just as his pencil mark to say that this digit, the length of this renbon, it actually goes down here.
Might be possible. I don't think I can rule that out, which is slightly perplexing. Okay, what about this one then? Maybe we can rule out 3 from this circle. If that's a 3, these 3 digits have to add up to 10, which means these 2 digits have to add up to 7, and they can't, because 3, 4, 1, 6, 2, 5 are all not available. So this is not a 3. And that means this is quite a big number. It's not...
And that was exactly the intended deduction, was that can't be a 3.
This one. Whoa. So that's 7, 8, or 9. So this one has to come out. It's got to grow, and it's got to grow quite a long way. It's got to go further than this. But now we can build out the M line and the R line. We don't know whether this is a 3 or not, do we? Do we know anything about this one? No. But now we can extend this again, because this is at least a 7 line. Oh, hang on. I've got a problem here. Because all I'm just thinking is, if that's a 9, we've got to construct a 10 line, so this would have to be a 1. Right, so that can't be an 8. That can't be an 8, because if this is an 8, the only way of making a sequence of digits that add up to 10 at the start of the line is going to be 8, 2, with a 2 here, and the 2 is going to clash. So this is 7 or 9, and it's odd.
Now maybe he will...
And that's... Ooh, I don't know what that does. Maybe nothing. So this square... Right... Yes, okay, so let's do that principle again. If this is 9, this is 1. If this is 7, we can't put a 1-2 pair after it to give us the extra 3 we need, so that has to be a 3. So this is a domino within the 10 sequence that sums to 10. I don't think that's doing anything, is it?
definitely doing something.
No, it is. Right. Oh, sorry. Look, it's Sudoku. Of course, it's always going to be Sudoku. There's a
Oh,
7
he
9
sees it the
pair
Sudoku
here.
way.
Where
Yeah,
do we put that in box
that
2?
works just as well.
It's got to live in those two squares. So that square is not 3 or 8. That's a 7 9 pair. Now, this is a whisper. So this is big. So this has to be little. And therefore, it has to be... I want to say 1 or 3. I was hoping to say 3, but it could be 1 as... Ah! You rotten thing.
But now our whisper is huge.
I think it can be 1. Okay, all right. So that's a fool's errand. What's this digit then? This is higher. Oh, wait a minute. This being 7 or 9 means this whisper's enormous as well. So it's got to start travelling down the grid. It's got to go miles. It's at least a 7. This P, we know every snake is at least 2. That can't be a 2 because there's already been a... Oh, in fact... Hang on. What have we got to place in this box? 6s and 8s. So this is at least a 6. Oh, look at that. That can be 6. 6 is normally very difficult on Whispers lines because 6 is monogamous and can only partner up with a 1. But look, this could be a 6 because very annoyingly, that could be a 1 and that could be a 1 and it would work.
That was such a pain in my butt when setting that could be a 6 and have those be double 1. It was genuinely annoying to me that I could not just sort of force that to resolve in some nice way.
And the expression we look for at times like this is bobbins. Now, what about then... What about modularity lines? So
earlier, I drank my glass of tea and it was empty, and then
here.
magically Tristan appeared to refill it. So I'm going to see if that happens again.
This has got to reach at least 7. Can this be a 2? Maybe. Okay. Right, now I don't really know where to look now. I think I'm going to start with pencil marking, so Mark will be very pleased with me. Pencil mark. We can have here, we haven't put 8 into this row, so these squares are 1, 3 and 8. But... Oh... I was about to try and make those two add up to 10. That's very silly. Okay, so we need to find a way of sort of tagging these together, don't we? So we've got this sort of thing going on. Let's draw some boundaries in. Draw some boundaries in. Draw some boundaries in. Draw that little boundary at the top. Draw some boundaries in down here. Make ourselves feel like we're making progress without doing very much thinking.
That's awesome, B.
Now, this digit...
Yeah, my husband and I were already together when we discovered...
2, and it looks like it can be, doesn't it?
Cracking the Cryptic.
This is probably 8, 2.
Although our boyfriend always likes to tease us for the fact that he was watching Cracking the Cryptic before we were.
Circle, so that can't be a 1. But it could still be a 3. Now, this is entropic, so if this is 3, this is low, which means we would have to have a medium and a high beneath it. That one, oh, hang on, yeah, let's check. We should pencil mark these, because I've suddenly seen that this couldn't be high entropy. In fact, look, these digits are all little. Now, we can't put 1 in there. So if that is 3, that has to be 4, because 1, 2, and 3 are from the same entropic set.
So just to say, in case he finds a different way around this, the thing that I intended here was for you to notice that these two cells sum to 10, and therefore, because of the numbers involved, these two cells on the Whisper also sum to 10. But you have a huge problem if these two cells on the Whisper that sum to 10 are 7, 3. Which is that 7 and 3 aren't 5 apart. And so therefore it must be that the 7 and 3 live over here. That was the sort of imagined next step. Although this puzzle has a lot of sort of give to it. Okay, why is it not playing? Uh-oh.
Now
there we go.
This line's going further, so that's got to be... Look, we can keep extending the logic along the Whispers lines. That can't be 4. 4 is not at least 5 different from 8, and certainly isn't at least 5 different from 6. So that's 6, 7,
Thank
8,
you,
or
love.
9. Okay, we can do a little bit better. That can't be 6, can it? Because then this will be 1, and this will be 1, and we'll have a problem with a monogamous digit being bigamous, which it certainly doesn't want to be. Okay, so that's low again. That might be able to be 4 rather irritatingly.
I think if you look at it, this is one of my favorite
no,
things
it
that
can't.
keeps coming up in this puzzle, is that digit, as Simon is about to explain, actually can't be 4, even though with what's presently written in the puzzle, it could be 4, but it actually can't be.
Before, because the next digit is here or here along this whisper, and either way round, it's going to force a 9 there, which will see those, so that can't be 4. Right. No, it doesn't do anything. What about modularity then? Modularity is the one I can never remember.
Yeah, so the reason why I really wanted this to be an entropic line rather than a modular line is that it forces a virtual 1, 2, 3 triple into the box, because if this is if this is an entropic line, which it's not, but if this is an entropic line, then you get you need a 1, 2, 3 on this line, and so then that gives you a virtual triple, which you can then turn into all sorts of things. However, this entropic line also gets you a fancier virtual triple that we'll see if Simon sees or not, because there's other ways around it. But I proved they couldn't both be entropic in a way that was somewhat painful. So I needed to choose one of them to be entropic, and I liked this one slightly better.
Remember, look at your keypad. 1, 4, 7, 2, 5, 8, 3, 6, 9. So if that's 6... Right, that digit has the same modularity as this cell. So if that's 6, that's got to be 3 or 9. And that's fine. And if that's 8, that's got to be 2 or 5, which, well, bobbins. Okay.
Yeah, it's specifically the interaction between the whisper and the 10 line, which of course takes a while to find because there's a lot of pairs of things that could be interacting. Which is what I really love in Sudoku, is when you have all of these sort of crazy interactions.
I have you now. I see what you've done here, you naughty little zetamath. Now, right. Here is a little point that we are going to... Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very simple. Look at this domino. This domino adds up to 10.
Simon, by the way, I should say, Simon is preternaturally good at guessing exactly the thing that I intended. Like, Simon, more than any other person I've watched solve my puzzles, Simon tends to hit exactly the path that I intended. I don't know, we're somehow on the same wavelength. I mean, I guess in a way I learned everything I know about Sudoku from watching Simon, so I tend to just set very Simon-y sorts of deductions. But Simon really tends, exactly like this, to just nail exactly the way I was thinking about it rather than some other way.
Because it's in a 10 sum, which means that domino adds up to 10 as well. But this is under different pressure because this is a whispers line. So how could that be 7 and 3? 7 and 3 are not 5 apart, so it cannot be 7 and 3, which means this cannot be 1, 9, because if this is 1, 9, that is 7, 3. So this is 7, 3, which means this is 9, 1, which means this is not 7, look. Aha, now we get to remove 1s from these squares. So this is 2, 3. This is that right? Yeah, okay. This is great. But although it's going to extend my E line, because that being 2, 3, 4 means that's 8 apparently, and that's 1. Oh, I want to think about the length of this line, but also I'm sort of my brain is flitting over everywhere. Right. This is only just working because this is a high entropy digit, which appears in that sequence of 3 cells. So in this sequence of 3 cells, we need a high entropy digit, and it has to be here. And it can't be 9 or 8. So that has to be 7. And this one we don't quite know. It's low or medium. So we don't know what this is.
Stupid lower medium
this
digit. That was also a
could still be
pain.
2. If it's 2, and this is Renban, this is 1 or 3. This has got a lot of growing to do. This, no, we don't know. This, all right, I'm going to come back to this one. This one is of length 7. Now, at the moment, it's only of length 6. So, what does that
I hope
mean?
he does this box
This
the way that I
is-
imagined.
Right, here is something mildly interesting. This, the second sequence of digits along this 10 line that add up to 10 are not 4 cells long. We can say that for certainty, because if they were 4 cells long, the 7th cell would have to be a 10, and that's impossible. And that's because 4 cells, the minimum 4 different digits in Sudoku can add up to, is 10 with a 1, 2, 3, 4 triple. So if this was 1, 2, 3, 4 adding up to 10, we'd have to put a 10 in one of those squares. That's not going to work. That means this is a 3-cell sum, because this can't be a 9, which means this digit is either, I want to say 7, 6 or 5, and it's not 7 because of this 7. So this isn't 2. So there's a little sort of tag of digits there. In fact, I'm going to use a different colour for that. I'm going to use yellow. Yeah, that's quite inoffensive, isn't it? That's sort of just to keep track of these 10 sums. And now we know there's a 10 sum either there or there. That's interesting as well, actually. Sorry, the thing I just noticed as I did that is that if that is there is a 2-cell sequence at the end of this line that adds up to 10, and if it's there, it has to be 4, 6 because 7, 8, and 9 have gone in this row. That's
so. If you have not seen this, why does 4, 6 not work? That was exactly why this was rigged. This was all rigged so that 4, 6 can't be the 2-cell 10 sum either way, and so you can look at the box and see why that's true.
That feels very Zeta-ish to me, that sort of deduction. That feels like, if that's 4, 6, that's 5. That's using up all the middle entropy. Do we have to have middle entropy? Oh, that would be so beautiful. No. Oh, do you? Yeah, of course you do. Oh, that's sick. Right. I understand.
So Simon is the
Epiphany.
first person I've seen to do it this way.
What we have to do here,
but that was exactly
is
what
to
I had in mind.
Hypothesize about the structure of this 7 snake, and imagine that its final cell was here, because if we were in this world, this domino adds up to 10 without using 7, 8, 9, so it's a 4, 6 pair, which makes this 5. Now the reason that shouted at me was 4, 5 and 6 are then gone from this box, and I know from an entropy perspective 4, 5 and 6 is one of the bands of entropy. So my next question was, if I do 4, 6 this with a 5 here, I can't have a middle entropy digit along this line in this box. But
you can tell if you look at this puzzle that I really liked any opportunity I could force you to think about a cell on a line where you didn't know where the cell was, but you knew it was in the box. That happens a number of times. And I totally agree with Selena. If anyone is forming a Sudoku cover band, it should be called Bands of Entropy.
But this is high entropy. So I don't know how the entropy goes along this snake. But if this was low entropy, we know the next digit on the snake has got to be middle entropy because the high's gone. And if this is middle entropy, it can't exist because that's 4, 5, 6. So this is Zeta's way of telling us that is where the grey line goes. And now we can draw that in. But okay, all right, no, all right. And I think there's the corollary of this, of course, is that actually it's so pretty. It's just beautiful. I can run that logic exactly again on this domino. If that's 4, 6, that's 5, and I still can't make this entropy line work. So this is not 4, 6, it's not 3, 7, it's not 1, 9, that's 2, 8. Bingo. And the 2 8's resolved by the fact I've got a 7, 8, 9 triple in that row. So that's 2, that's 8. And that's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? It's absolutely beautiful logic.
So glad he nailed that.
Ground to a halt. Okay, no, right. We'll go back to region building then. So we've got this one's got to drop down here, at least. Do we know? We know that one is the same modularity now as this one. So if this was 6, that can't be 3, that's 9. Now, okay, that doesn't work. Okay, I'm almost getting used to the way that the naughty zetamath's brain works. Right, if that's 6, watch this. That's 9 by modularity. What's this digit? Well, that's 8. What's this digit? Well, that's 8 because of the 6 here. We get 2 8s in the column, and that's jolly naughty.
But that is not, in fact, the way I saw that. But it's very cute. The way I saw it is, where is 9 in box 6? 9 is actually placed in box 6. Is the way I saw it. But his way works well too.
8, which means that's got to be. Oh, look, we do get double 1. We get double 1 here. 6, 6. This 6 is almost being a bit bigamous because it does.
It might be, Michael. He might have made like a W wing or something to do it.
And tries to make sure these two ones don't see each other and know of each other's existence.
I love the lore. The lore of the 6 is amazing. The lore of this particular 6 is amazing. Someone should write a novel.
Right. What does this mean? So now we should check this digit, shouldn't we? Which has to be the same modularity.
I think it was 2D wave particles. It was some relatively early puzzle that Simon did of mine, where it's like he'd done enough, but not so many that he like knew me in the way that he does now. And he said something to the effect of, "You are a new breed of evil, my friend," which I greatly, greatly appreciated and enjoyed at the time.
Modularity is the 8, and is a 2 or a 5. That's incredibly annoying because that seems to be. Well, if we knew that was a 2, that would be a 5. That does nothing. Right. Okay. Right. Where do we look now then? Okay, that's not 4. I can see that. Because if that's 4, this line goes down in a straight line like that. And it has to have consecutive digits that don't include 5. So it has to be a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple. And you can't put 2 in it if this is 4. So that is not 4. That's 2 or 3, which means it only comes down as far as this as a maximum. This is, gosh, I find it very hard to switch between entropy and modularity. So if this is 4, this is 2 or 3.
Tom is correct. 3 doesn't work for exactly the same reason in the circle. This is the disambiguating clue. This Renbon circle is the black dot of this puzzle. This brings it from a handful of solutions down to 0, but it is available now in a rather nice way that this is a 2, which does clean up a lot of things.
And if this is 2 or 3, that's 4, that's 5. If that's 2,
Yeah, hopefully we didn't
This
bring it
is,
down to zero
this,
solutions.
that's 2. That is 3 now. Is that broken for some reason? Because it would have to be consecutive with 2, and it couldn't be 1.
When
So
Nefaria was
2,
doing
that is
duplicity, I told him it was called duplicity because it had 2 solutions, but somehow he didn't believe me.
3. If that's 3, these 2 digits have to be consecutive with 3. I couldn't get as high as 4. Oh, right, it's that simple. That can't be 3. If this is 3, let me show you why. If this is 3, that has to extend down. And now how are we filling these 2 digits? The problem we've got here is this 5, which means that we could have one of these as a 4, but the other one would need to be a 2. And it can't be. We simply cannot put 2 in this sequence. So this doesn't work. And that digit is a 2, which means this digit is not a 2. This is a 3, because it can't be a 1. We can hive off that domino. Yeah, that's fine, isn't it? But it doesn't really do...
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, because it was put in so late, it doesn't
digit.
actually do anything useful.
Wow. I've got a horrible feeling I've missed a trick here. Do I have to... Oh, no. Right, got it. Okay. There, it's beautiful, actually. Again, it's just another absolutely beautiful little micro deduction, if you like. That digit sees 1, 2, and 3. So it cannot be low entropy. So it must, and it cannot be high entropy. So it's got to be middle entropy. And if it's middle entropy, that digit has to be low entropy. And that does all of that. Look at that, just fills in.
Yep.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And now we know that the next digit along this snake has to be low entropy. So it has to be a 1. It has to be a 1 because it can't be a 2. So there is a 1 in one of those squares by Sudoku, or sort of more by entropy, actually. And then after that, there needs to be a middly digit, which will have to be... So if we went that way, this would be a 4 or a 6.
Boy, if he filled in that 9, it would make his life a lot easier.
Oh, it depends. It depends how this snake works.
Not that I would ever not miss this 9 if I didn't have chat to point it out, but the 9 is really sort of making some of this a little trickier to see, because the 9 in box 6 is forced here, which does a lot of good work for him.
It might be true to say that has to be orange and high.
He's absolutely right. This was an intended deduction for a bit.
This snake...
It is not at all necessary, but he is completely right that if you just contemplate where the snake is ever going to get its next high digit, that's the only cell it can possibly be.
In column 9 now. For its, is it its 7th digit, can it? Because if it is... So if this just continues down this column, that's going to be a high digit by entropy, but it can't be 7, 8, or 9. So it cannot go there for its 7th digit. So where does it have to go for its 7th digit? Well, due to sort of the restrictions upon it, however it gets there, it always takes that cell, and that digit is high. And you can see actually it doesn't do anything, unfortunately. We don't know anything about that, but I think that logic feels right.
I was glad that step was not necessary in the final version of the puzzle, because it's a little
Sudoku.
It's a little grouty. Yeah, Sudoku is a good thought, my friend.
Digit is restricted by Sudoku. Maybe it's 4 or 6. I'm not sure. I'm going to check this one. What I've seen is that that's seeing 7, 8, 9. Now, it's also seeing 1, 2, 3, and 5. So it is 4 or 6. Right, there's a 4-6 pair in this row. That's got to be important. So 2, 7, 8,
I definitely
and 9
never
are left
spotted
to
this
place.
4-6 pair.
2, 7. Oh, well, that digit can't be 7, 8, 9. That's a naked single. That's a 2.
Okay,
That's
I
gonna
did
do
spot that
wonders for my
at
parity
some
thing.
point.
In fact, does that mean that parity thing's massive? It does, doesn't it? Because this is huge. Now we've got 7, 8, 9s here. That can't be.
Yeah, I did at some point spot this by asking about it. You don't have to do this in the final version, but it actually turned out to be the case that if you asked yourself at some moderately early point, where do 7, 8, 9 go in row 4, they're actually a hidden triple in row 4. Fairly early because of this 7, 8, 9 running down column 3. And so actually by asking yourself that, you actually get fairly early that actually this line is not small, it's enormous. Now, there's a cuter way to do it where you can realize that actually if this is a 2, you don't have an odd digit to put in this cell that someone else showed me. Because if this cell is a 2, these are a 3, 5, but this cell sees 1, 7, and 9. So this being a 2 creates this miracle where there's no odd digit available for this cell.
8.
Yeah, this has been a really great solve.
No, that's fine. And then I merged modularity and entropy in my brain. I was like, oh, I've got a 7, 8, 9 triple here. This is not 9, okay, by the power of Sudoku. But this is now a length 7 at least snake, so that's got to come poking down the grid here. This one has to keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wanted to say it couldn't repeat 9, but that's nonsense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's got to
Hey,
keep
Alyssa,
going.
thanks for all the help. Yeah, we're blonde on the way to purple at the moment.
There's an 8, 9 pair that's emerged because we know this must be high polarity. So this is low polarity and can't be 1. So that's 2, 3, or 4. And that we can also see that this whispers line doesn't come to this square, because this doesn't have the opportunity anymore to be a high digit. 6, 7, 8, and 9 have gone in the column. So in fact, we could do that, couldn't we? That would be a sensible thing to do. And because of that, we can say this can't be 4. Well, not because of that, but that can never be 4 because it would see 2 9s. It would see a 9 here and a 9 in one of those positions.
And the two 9s that it was seeing would know about each other, which would be the problem for the lore.
So there's a 2, 3 pair. Right, there's a 2, 3 pair. So this is a 5. There we go. 5, 2. This column hasn't got a 4 in it. Let's put that in. And come on. Do we now know what this line's doing? This is 7 or 9. If it's 7, that square is 1 or 4. It would be 1, wouldn't it? Because it couldn't be 4. But if this is 9, this is 6. So it doesn't have a lot of options. But I think it's got enough options that we don't really know what's going on. Oh, botheration. Okay, we're going to have to think harder. What about... I don't know. I've got nothing here. 1 in this box is a bit restricted. Oh, so 1 is on the Renban. But if that's a 9, there was always going to be a 1 on the Renban. But if that's a 7, then we would know, because it's got 1 on it, it would be the digits 1 to 7. So it wouldn't have 8 or 9 on it, which... I suppose 8 is in one of these squares. I can't quite see how to do this. What's the parity line? It alternates parity. So, if this is even, this is odd, and it would have to be 3 or 5, which would be possible, probably. If that's 7, this is even, and it would have to be 4 or 6. Golly. Okay, I don't know what to do. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's just sort of like forgotten about
right,
this
there's a little
8-9
bit of
pair.
Sudoku we can do. Look, this is a 7, 8, 9 triple. The 7 of which is in row 4. So that can't be a 7. Or we'd prevent ourselves from putting a 7 in box 5. That gives me a 7 here. Gives me an 8, 9 here. I think that's always been there. If that's 7, that's the R digit, isn't it? So there is a 7 or a 9 down here, making a virtual pair with this digit. Wow, I'm properly stuck here. I don't really understand what I'm meant to be looking at. Is it our old friend Sudoku? It could always be that.
There's always a
4 in one of
danger.
those
Yeah,
squares.
always a danger of Sudoku.
So if that's 4, we know that's 7. And then this would be odd and would have to be 3 or 5. But if this is 4, this is 8, and then this is 3 or 5. So there's always a 3 or a 5 in that string of digits, which is probably in some way useful to know. Okay, should we try... Oh, I don't know where to... I really don't know what to look at. What about... What do we need here? 3, 6... Let's try that down here. 3, 6, 7, 9, I think.
Yeah, the quad in box
in some way
in
restricted.
box 6 would give it to him if you just wrote it down.
We always know there's a... Oh, yes, it is a little bit. So there's always a 9 down here, which means this can't be 9. So that's restricted this one very slightly. 1, 4, 6, 9. So these are from 1, 4, 6, and 9. We know that's definitely not 1. That's definitely not 9.
Come on. See the other thing that's not 9.
Or can we use entropy to help us here?
We certainly can,
Maybe.
especially if
Let me
we
think
realize
about
the one's
that
not
for a
9.
second or two. So we're on 7, aren't we? So the next digit would be 1. So if we go here, we have to put 1 in. And then the next digit would be 4, 6. And that would mean this would have no fill. Oh, sorry. Is it that simple? If we go here, do we break the world, is my question. I think we do, because neither of these could be 9. And we couldn't put a 9 in the box. So from an entropy perspective, we don't go there, which means we
Is
must
it that
go
simple?
Here,
it's so much simpler than that. But I mean, any time you don't see a Sudoku thing, it's
that means there is a 9 in this domino, which we... look, sorry. We've got this 9 here as well. That's probably fixing that much more quickly. Right,
yes,
so
there we go.
Down here now, because we can't go through the 9.
There we go. He saw it afterwards.
Perspective too early. So these two squares are unsnakeable. Right, we will colour you in with... What should we use? No, I can't. I don't have a light grey, do I? Do I have a light grey hidden in any of these palettes? No. Alright, so we'll just ring this with this. And we can get this digit now, can we? We've got 8, 7. We need a middly digit, which is 4, 5, or 6. And this is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's of length 7. This is high, so its next digit is... I could go here with 3. It either goes there with a 3 or there with a 1. I don't know how to pencil mark that, but one of those things is true. This 1 here is giving me a 1 over here by our old friend Sudoku. Which, is that going to be in any way helpful? I wish. 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that is a 5 or a 6, believe it or not, I think.
There we go. Which one is it?
This is
Chat
3,
has been
4,
on that
5,
one for a
or
while.
6.
Chat was
This
very
one
perceptive about that cell, row
is
5,
3, 4,
com 6
5, or
specifically.
6. Bother. So the main restriction there was on this digit, wasn't it? And this is entropic. Ah, that's beautiful. Not entropic, it's modular. That can't be 5, because 5 would be too close to an 8, which is its modular friend. So that's 6, that's 4, that's 6, that's 4. Good, 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 good. Now, come on. 4 is now... Oh, that's lovely. Look what this is doing. So 4 is now here, which tells us the parity line, which has got longer by virtue of this. 9, 7, everything's going to... Look, now the modular line needs a 1 here by modularity. Come on. This has got to be good. This is not 4. Ah, not 4. This is not 6. This 8 and 9 we can do. 8 and 9.
That 8 in column 5 is going to do him a lot of good.
9 goes to 8 here. This square here has to be
the thing that
2
this
or
does
5,
is
that's fine. The
amazing.
2, 3 still work, very annoyingly. This, oh look, this is so annoying. Right, what's this one? This has got to be odd parity, and it's got loads of options. 3, 5, and 7, I think. Not, oh, hang on, that tells me something. So this is now 3 or 5. I've got a 3, 5 pair here, so I need a 6, 7 pair at the bottom of the column. How is this not resolved? 2, 5, 9 at the bottom of this column. And presumably now
So the beautiful thing that has happened here, and I claim no credit for this happened completely by accident, is that this 7 has now made these a 3, 6, 9 triple. And a 3, 6, 9 triple creates a huge problem for the modular line, because if the modular line then turns into the 3, 6, 9 triple, it has no choice but to take 2 cells out of a 3, 6, 9 triple, which it absolutely cannot do. So the 7 here is doing a particularly nice duty of fixing how the modular line moves.
Ask about... I don't know. I'm going to ask about... no. I thought I had a brainwave. I haven't. I want to know which way this whisper goes. Unfortunately, I think it could still go to a 7 here. It definitely can't go to a 6 here. But if it turns this way, it has to go to 9 in this position. I don't see what's wrong with that. That's so annoying. What about the modularity of this line? So we need a 3 or a 3, 6, 9 as the next digit. So if it goes down, it has to go to 9. If it goes that way, or it could do it also. Oh, I tell you what, it probably can't do. If it goes that way, its next digit's problematic, isn't it? Or could it be? Ah, no, this is good. I've spotted something. 7 and 6 by Sudoku. Yeah, look, if we turn in here, that digit is the same modularity, so we don't turn. Which means, well, that's going to be good. That's going to be good for my modular line, because my modular line comes down here, where it needs to be a 9. That's not a 9 now. That's not a 9 now. But this is now hiving off my whisper line for its final digit, which is here, which now must be 7, because 6 is monogamous with 1. So that's 7, that's 2, that's 3, that's 5, that's 3, that's 2, that's 3. These two squares are 6 and 5. Bobbin's face. I don't know if that's resolved. This parity line has to come into this square now, because that's going to be green. I mean, it's quite remarkable, isn't it, how all of these snakes which lived at the top of the grid are disambiguating. There was, well, lower than row 4 in the grid, there was no snake at all. So zetamath in constructing this will have had to be sure that these snakes at the top snake down and disambiguate the last 5 rows. That's really clever. That is really clever. Now, can I pull that same trick again here? 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, it's only got one more cell to go. This one. And we know that cell is low polarity. But that is not 3 anymore. So we must go here, and we must take 1 as our final cell of orange. Okay, this is feeling like it might be useful now. Now, if that's 3, 6, 9, that's certainly not
There's
6.
some setting
This
and a
column
lot
hasn't
of
got
luck.
an 8 in it, so let's put that in. Therefore, this is not
It's like
8.
this is definitely the sort of puzzle where like the first giant chunk of it is setting, and then the back 30% is sort of like fishing, where it's like, okay, I set up the versions where I like the opening, and now I'm gonna fish for a version that A has a solution and B it's satisfying. Like this 369 was dumb luck, but of course I kept that one because I really liked what that did in terms of the solve path. But yeah, I went through a ton of versions of this where oops, at the back end there's 0 solutions, or oops, at the back end you've got to find a bunch of naked singles or whatever. So yeah, so the ending of a puzzle usually involves like, I think fishing is a good word for it, because it's like it's not just luck, but there's a lot of luck.
These 2 squares are 2, 4, and 5. That's not 2. So 2 in the corner. That means this is 5, which we could have got in other ways. That's 6, look. This is not 6. I'm not doing my Sudoku very well. Never mind. We're still at least... We're alive and kicking in the puzzle. No, it's not resolved, is it? Okay, but we know the parity of this digit. It's got to be even. Which is underwear. Really? Can that really be 2, 4, and 6? Apparently it can. Right. So then it's got to find an odd digit, doesn't it? Oh, look at that. Wow. Okay, so if this turned down, how could this be odd? It can't be 1, 7, or 9 from the row, or 3 and 5 from the column, so it can't. So it goes there. That seems to address a pencil marked 8, because we now need this to be odd. And in fact, we need it to then extend down, don't we? So it is.
So now it finally resolves what the Renbon does. That sort of, he was looking earlier for this like R corner mark to be useful, and it was like, well, you're probably not going to see this R corner mark again for an hour. And indeed, that's about how it is. How it has come out.
Touch itself. So it's got to be careful about where it goes next. This digit is odd. It's not 1 or 3 or 7. So it's 5 or 9. Really? Okay, 5 or 9. Don't know if it's resolved. Which feels bizarre, doesn't it? Oh, hang on. I might have broken it. Right, I haven't broken it. Because remember right at the start when we put the R pencil mark in, well, we know that this can't take the whole of the column. So that has to be 7. And that just, allows it to knock that one out, which puts this digit in the corner and doesn't break the puzzle, because now we can end our snake there. We know these squares have to be 3, 5, and 6 to make sure we're in consecutive land. So the 3 must go here. This is now a 9. And hopefully something is this resolved now? I don't know yet. I'm sure it is somehow. 6 is here by Sudoku. So that's 9. That's 3.
Thank you, Mavir.
So this is 5.
Yeah, this is a very fun
6.
solve to watch.
That's
I enjoyed
6.
this one a lot.
That's 4. That's 6. That's 5. That's 4. That should be done. That's 2 now, is it? Okay, so in this column, we need 1 and 4, which we can put in. And in that box, we haven't put 9. Now, I'm not sure I've done my snakes properly, so I'm going to just pause there and think. No, I haven't. Look, this snake is not done. The parity snake needs another odd digit, or it needs another digit, and it's got to be odd. So the parity snake comes down there, and that becomes red. This one is finished. No, this isn't. This is not finished. Whoopsie. Right, the modularity snake. It's got to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It needs 2 more digits. So its next digit is a 5 or it's 5 or an 8. It's terrifying because you think, oh, is it going to be able to get one? And then its next digit is a 1, 4, or a 7. So it's got to be that one. Isn't that gorgeous? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That can exist.
Thank you, Brennan. Thank you.
That might be all my snakes done. I think it probably is. Let's click tick. Yeah, fabulous.
Oh, I didn't include a solution? I thought I did include a solution for this one. Oops,
I mean,
my
that's
bad.
testament to how good this setter is. It's not easy, and it is Holy Interactions Batman, isn't it? I mean, it takes... it's just gorgeous. I mean, there's so many cool things about this. What did I love over here? I loved the idea around this the 4-6 pair.
I'm so glad he got the thing around the 4-6.
Breaking the entropy. That is absolutely stunning. And I really also liked... There was something up here that put 2 8s in this column. That was lovely. But the way it all sits together, the way all of the different constraints.
Oh yeah, because of the way the cages look, it must be
really class.
Must be different.
I love the fact that you could work that out to be an 8 fairly early on. I mean, that's a surprising. It's surprising that these are so powerful, knocking 2 and 3 off the line here. Quality as ever, zetamath. Loved it. It was a sumptuous buffet for me. I hope you had a go. I hope you all enjoyed it. Do let me know in the comments. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition. Oh, don't forget, we've got the Roll of Honor coming as well with the nice music. But anyway, we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.
Well, that was a lot of fun to watch. As always, I quite enjoy Simon. How many of you are in these who have done the Cracking the Cryptic thing? I admit I have not done one of the Cracking the Cryptic bonus things in a while. Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you, Tristan. Realize the music will get copyright problems almost immediately. Although what I found hilarious, recently I heard that if you play Celeste on stream, it's okay because they've approved the music. But if you play Celeste without the music on stream, that the wind sound effects get caught. Yes, I have heard that Glum Hippo might have submitted a pack for maybe next month, maybe possibly, who knows. So watch out for that. Yeah, I guess a large part of the reason why I have not solved many of them is because wow, my brain is just gone completely, is because I do so much of my solving on stream now. I very rarely solve stuff off stream, and so I'm not going to solve the Cracking the Cryptic content on stream, of course. Although I guess I am going to solve a very old Cracking the Cryptic content thing on stream soon, because soon I'm going to do my one that I made well over a year ago, but I'm going to do the Elements of Sudoku puzzle hunt that I made for them on stream in the not infinitely distant future. I don't think they'll be upset that I'm doing it on stream 18 months after they used it as a content, but it was one of my favorite puzzles, if not my favorite puzzle that I've ever made. It's a tough list. There are a lot of puzzles I've made that I really enjoyed, but that one was that one took real special work to get to pull together. So anyway, we'll get to talk about that and do that one together. Hello, lawsuit.gif. It's funny because when they published it, it was actually published on LMD. So I actually hit it on LMD when they used it as their puzzle thing of the month, because I submitted it to them, and then they didn't use it for, I don't know, 6-8 months after I submitted it. So I just published it on LMD. And then not immediately, but shortly after I published it on LMD, then they used it. I believe because I sent them an email that said something like, hey, would you be interested in some sort of reward thing for me? I know you didn't use my last one, but any guidance on what you'd like would be appreciated. And then they were just like, they must have then gone back and looked at it, probably because I submitted it when they didn't know who I was or whatever, and it slipped through the cracks because they get 80 bajillion emails a day. And they're like, oh, hey, we should actually publish this. So anyway, so I will talk about that one a lot more because there's a lot going on in that particular puzzle hunt, if you will. But anyway, thank you to everyone for joining today for this live reaction. I try to always do these whenever one of my puzzles gets featured, and I also stream 3 days a week. So if you want to see me maybe with purpler hair next time, do please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Love seeing people around, and I know many of you are regulars, and I see you around all the time as well. So anyway, thank you so much. Do please like and subscribe to this video. And please also like the original video. Yeah, we are coming up on Stream 200, so we're not that far. And if you're a setter and you want to set something for my Stream 200, I am accepting submissions for that. There'll be a thread very shortly over on the Discord, so please do that. Anyway, thank you, everyone. I hope to see you around. And yeah, I'm always happy to do bonus streams, especially bonus streams for this reason. So anyway, so thank you. Great hanging out with all of you. And I'll see you all real soon. Reminder to the regulars, by the way, I normally stream on Friday. Tomorrow, I am instead going to a Nordic Festival with my parents. So there will not be a stream tomorrow. But then on Sunday, there will be Sunday. There will be a traditional Sudoku stream. So you can look forward to that. All right. Thanks to everyone. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, this is certainly like I mean, I guess it's no surprise. This kind of puzzle is really sort of like my jam of like I love all the like weird interactions between things. That's just really sort of like what tickles me is the sort of the weird interactions between things like this. Alrighty, well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for hanging out, and I look forward to hanging out with you all real soon. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.